And then I'm going to ask for some of your feedback and split you up into groups and have you give feedback to each other. And then we'll do a question and answer time towards the end from you to me. So I was born with partial limbs, so I've been like this my whole life. And the doctors didn't really know why I was born this way. It was just a fluke. But I was adopted by my parents who adopted me at birth. And they're wonderful people. They adopted 5 other kids. And so I was one of 8 kids because they had 2 also. And so the 6 kids that they adopted, including me, all had special needs. So I grew up in a family where 6 of us had special needs, and it was actually, I mean, it was chaotic and fun. And the amazing thing about my parents is that they didn't treat any of us different than the other. And they made us be the best people that we can be. They really encouraged us to be independent. They never coddled me. They always made sure that I still did my chores and did my best in school. It wasn't like, oh, you have a disability, so you get to get out of all this stuff. And they also saw my giftings and talents early on in my life and encouraged me in them. One of my favorite stories to share is when I was 4 years old. I went to a local rodeo in Chehalis, which is where I grew up, and I heard the announcer talking on the microphone, and I don't really remember this, but I hopped away from my parents and hopped up the stairs and went up to the announcer and said, "Can I talk on the microphone?" And he gave me the microphone and he was having me repeat after him everything to say into the microphone. And so my parents all of a sudden hear my voice over the microphone, and my dad was very shocked that I sounded like a grown-up. I didn't sound 4 years old. And he said my voice was clear and mature sounding, and he was like, oh my gosh, she has a future in public speaking. And so they really did a wonderful job of seeing what I was good at and saying, we're not going to focus on your disability, we're going to focus on your abilities, your talents, and your gifting. So one of the challenges I did face, though, growing up was I was one of the first kids to be put into the public school of where I went to school in Chehalis. When I was born, that was the year that they came out with the ADA law. So it was a brand new thing that America was advocating for people with disabilities to be included in schools and work environments and things like that. So the school district was not yet kind of doing that within the schools. They weren't advocating for students with disabilities, so they were sending the students with disabilities to a separate school, and my parents wanted me to be in a mainstream school, in a mainstream classroom, because I wasn't behind mentally or emotionally at all. And so they had to hire a lawyer to help me get into school. So what that did is it was both positive and it was also difficult, because what that did is it put me and other students, because as soon as they won that lawsuit, they legally had to shut down the other school where they were sending all the kids with disabilities. So a whole bunch of us ended up going into a public school system that wasn't ready. They weren't ready to have students with disabilities there yet. And so what that did is it created a positive change, because then there was now, they had to accommodate students with disabilities, and so we were able to be with our peers. But it also, I did get teased, and there wasn't necessarily a lot of awareness or like advocacy for that. And so, especially in middle school and high school is when it got pretty bad. And I can just say though that, I ate a snack right before I talked to you guys, is what I can say is that I got through that time because I had a dream. Because my dream was to do what I'm doing right now, was to be a public speaker, because I was always being encouraged that, like, you have a gift in speaking to people. I also love to sing, and I have, before I could talk, I was singing, and so, you know, just all of those passions kept me going, even through the times that I was getting teased. But it did make me feel bad about myself, and I came out of high school with a pretty low self-esteem. I'm just being real. But I have experienced the other side of that too, where when I went out to college, I went to PLU, which is close by in Tacoma, and one of my favorite things that happened there, literally the first day of college, I was in the cafeteria by myself eating breakfast before class, and the entire football team after practice invited me to come sit with them for breakfast. And I was just like, oh my gosh, the football team wants me to sit with them. Like, it felt so good. And then they invited me to sit with them every morning. So every morning I would go and sit with the football team, and they kind of made me like their little mascot and friend, and they started introducing me to other people on campus, and I suddenly had this group of friends that totally transformed my life because of the words that they spoke to me, the acceptance that I felt that I hadn't experienced in the schools that I grew up in. And it was so powerful. It literally changed my entire perspective on myself and what I was capable of. And that dream that was only just a seed inside of me, like, okay, someday I want to be a singer, someday I want to be a public speaker, began to feel real. And it began to feel possible because I felt like all these people believed in me. All these friends really believed in me, and they spoke those words to me like, yes, you are talented, you are gifted, you are going to change people's lives with your story. And they didn't just say those words, they accepted me for who I was. And they did look past my disability and saw me. And that was so, so powerful. So through those friendships, I'm actually still friends with most of those people, including some of the dudes on the football team. Like, we all just became a close-knit community, and we're also connected. And after PLU, I went on and got a degree in radio broadcasting, and then I got a master's in counseling, all with the vision behind it of becoming a public speaker. And just this year, with all of those accomplishments, I got to hold the title of Miss Wheelchair Washington, which has been an amazing opportunity and has opened so many doors. I feel like my dreams, the dream that seemed like just a vision, 10 years ago, is now actually happening. I'm traveling to schools and sharing in classrooms and assemblies. I also speak at businesses and churches and wherever they want a message that words have power. So that's basically my story, and I hope that it inspires you that your words also have power, and that you can do what my friends did and speak positive words into people's lives and bring change into their life. So the next thing I'd like to do is get a volunteer to write on